Um, we have we do have an ongoing question with Carrie Carrister. We'd like to ask about the creation of Ganses in a particular method and so on. Maybe we could get that in. Would that be okay?
Yes, explain.
Okay, Carrie, if you're ready, I'll go ahead there and see if we can frame your question. I know it's has to do with the creation of the of Ganses with the carbon stick method. And could you explain about that and ask your question and see if we can get the conversation going on that?
Can you hear me, Rick? I just unmuted. Would you like me to ask?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Keshe. It's Carrie Ellis, and I have so appreciated your teachings, and I have traveled some and taught some workshops. I really appreciated last week when you talked about the washing of the caustics off. I know I've always been really careful to teach that, and I know at one point when the carbon stick Gans method was brought forward, I know right now you are really affirming that the primary way to make Gans is with the nano-coated copper. And I appreciate that. I honor that. I've always taught that. I also know that when the carbon stick method came out, I know Arvis brought that forward, and I will say about that method that I have really loved it. I loved the Gans that I've made, and it has seemed to do really good things. I know that you're wanting to make sure that everything is made in a very particular way so we get the proper results. And so I just wanted to know if you would maybe talk about that a little bit. I know there's been many people have asked, and I think it is a question that's kind of up right now. And I know that there may be a question about if there's, I understand that the carbon stick method is maybe not necessarily approved right at the moment. So I'm asking about.
Let me
yes,
you.
Please.
Nothing is approved, nothing is disapproved.
Okay.
It's just we understand the difference. We got to understand the difference. Carbon is 12 and copper is 60. So it's a force of 5 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where it comes from. With the zinc and nano-coated copper, we create a magnetic field from the nucleus point of view. This is the difference. Where with a carbon, you create the atomic structure withdrawal, where in that position, the process is so rapid that you produce carbon, which you have to support it with the oxygen. And if you produce CO2 from the physical element of the carbon, you are connected to the physical dimension of the material. It's very much like the iron, which is in a metal condition, in a physical matter condition, coming in touch with the Gans of the amino acid produces the blood. But if you put the Gans of iron in a different shape or form into the amino acid, you produce a pure blood, hemoglobin, the real hemoglobin. You still produce the same, but it's not the same strength of the same order. There are two different things. The iron you take as a tablet is very much different than the iron you digest from eating, let's say, red meat. The one you take as a tablet is in a matter condition and you absorb all of it. In the one you take with meat, body only takes what it needs. This is the problem with a lot of the food. This is one of the reasons I always explain, even in the teaching earlier today. that when you take your magnesium, zinc, and copper, you take it with CO2 and zinc oxide, because you create a condition of entrapping it or delivering it in the environment of the body of the man. And body only takes what it needs. When you take a magnesium tablet, all of it goes into, because it's stronger, so it enforces itself. When you take your tablets, even like for potassium, calcium, magnesium, and the rest, you take it in the environmental condition of the zinc and copper and CO2. It's a totally different process. Now you convert, you distribute it as an atomic molecular Gans level, where the others is different. The same thing is with the CO2 sticks. You have a huge massive force sitting at the copper, 5 times more, and you literally strip it out. It's just taking your clothes off yourself, or you're standing in a huge wind tunnel and getting everything stripped off you very fast. That's all it is. But the essence of the carbon you create in a zinc plate, magnesium, copper plate, is a Gans state magnetic field. It's totally different structure plasma. Where with a copper stick, you create a CO2. It's very fast, but it's not recommended as such for the use as for drinking. What do you call it? The plasma water, unless your body needs it. It's a big difference. The Bentley and the Rolls Royce are still both cars. Depends which way you want to drive it.
May I ask, one of the discussions that has come up is the thought that the carbon is a nanomaterial, and I'd like to know what your thought on that is. And some,
Can you explain? I missed the word. You just got disconnected.
Yes. The question that some discussion that has come up is that the carbon is a nanomaterial because it's burned. Say if it was a piece of some bamboo makes a nice carbon stick, and I know that the purity of the carbon stick would make a difference. But the idea, I think, that started it was that it was a hexagonal structure, molecular structure, as I believe the nano-coated copper is. And I'm understanding the difference in the molecular weight difference and all of that.
Yes, you see, there's a very big difference in the understanding. There is nothing wrong with both of them, but what do you expect for them to operate under? You understand? That's the difference. You'll find out when you work with a Gans plasma, which is CO2, you have the natural effect. With a CO2 which you create from the stick, you have a different dimension, the strength of the plasma. Do you think your body creates that kind of condition? I don't think so.
Okay, very good.
As we say in English, horses for courses. Just because it's a horse doesn't mean you can put it on the racetrack or put it on the flat race.
How about making nano-coated copper GANs with a coil? If I'm in a lot of countries where only simple things are available. For instance, right now I'm in very small villages in the Yucatan of Mexico, where I may teach a couple of classes, and getting materials is a little more complicated. So a copper wire, a heavy wire that could be made into a coil versus a plate.
In a third world, in a condition like you are, you already have access to pure carbon, which has been converted, if you want to look at it that way. The ashes from wood, yeah?
Yes.
That's your best solution.
Okay.
Let me explain, please.
Okay, please.
If you make ganses of the ashes of wood, yeah, because the wood has already gone through the transformation in the what do you call it, in the process, as the same as do the carbon stick they make.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you'll find out is how you played in what you needed. In South America, for centuries, people have used. I was explaining this to Dr. Klaus very recently. I think that the South Americans centuries back used to burn wood for heating, and then when they threw the ashes out, they found out they're getting very good results in growing food. In the places that food never grew, they start growing beautiful vegetation, what they needed to eat. And then they actually start burning the woods to create areas where they could put the ashes that they could cultivate. If you go to South America, in places you see lands which are totally black. Because for centuries they literally burn wood to create ashes, to create nanomaterial, to absorb energy that the vegetation could grow on it.
Yes.
We've seen that this is done by the Israelis very clearly after 1960s war. When they took over the Sinai desert, the Israelis came up with a fantastic system. They tarmacked the desert and they brought the new soil, topsoil on the tarmac. And the oranges you see coming from Israel comes from desert. The big oranges, which is so because Israel doesn't have that land mass to do. They understood the potential of using the land, isolating it, or putting a topsoil with a lot of things on it. We see this now becoming part of the norm in Africa. We're trying to change desert to a food center this way, literally by Gans material. This is what I suggested to the Chinese government. As you know, the central China desert is moving towards Beijing very heavily, and they've tried everything. And the simplest thing for Beijing to do is to literally water the Gans and put seeds on it, and it grows, it solidifies the move of the desert, and it costs nothing. What you're talking about is the same thing, creating a Gans or creating environment of the Gans.
Yes.
When I was in China last time, years ago, this was a discussion what we're going to do with the movement of deserts into Beijing. We'll run Beijing over in the next 50 years, 100 years, most probably. But by changing the environment, you let the sand be there, you create a condition where the trees can root and plants can root, and it stops the movement of the desert. There is no other solution. And it costs literally nothing for the Chinese government. And you do the same. When you put in South America, you say in a remote village or whatever, the ashes are your best ganses. Because they're already converted into nanomaterial. You have to find a way to convert it. Put it in the soil, ratio it different, connect the electric connection with the discharge, and you will see gases will produce in the middle. This is what I say. If you understand, you don't need to do anything. If you comprehend the technology in its true sense, you can always adapt it to what you need. If you remember, you forget, and it's not there. And a lot of our people just remember this is what is done, I have to copy. But if you comprehend it, you can change it. In many times, the central bar of the, what do you call it, the batteries are fantastic, what is needed. I always said the biggest gift Europeans gave to the African was a pure 99%, nearly 100% copper sheets in the batteries they couldn't dispose of in Europe. They thought they dump it in Africa. So it's the best resources now for Africa to open the batteries, take the pure copper sheets out, which is spend a lot of money taken out of Africa to be processed now back to Africa in the back door to feed the nation. We have to find a solution in what's on the table. I use these, Caroline and I, we used to go around Kortrijk in Belgium. We used to buy the batteries. The guys, they thought, what the idiots, why they're buying these batteries for €1 each? But they didn't know I can make a €1,000 system out of it. It's what we see. We used to wash and clean them, and even Armand can tell you, we've done this in the Sansano. The beauty of it is what you don't know, you don't know how to use it. But in these kind of conditions, you have everything.
Yes, and there's also a battery that has a zinc plate and a carbon stick in it. So I know some have been utilized. Yes.
All the batteries you buy, what do you call it, disposable battery, the casing just open, go around and collect batteries and empty the inside. And the casing is the biggest resource for humanity for power. You can even
Yes.
use the stick in the middle, the carbon and the zinc outside. Now you produce food. It's lost its energy in the physical dimension, but if you understand the power of the Gans and what it can do, the center pin, the pure graphite in the center, you wash it, you take it out, you have the zinc casing, you wash it, you clean it, and then nano coat the zinc and put this. You got your food. The best energy resource, the best thing for masses. And because it's supported by zinc but not by copper, it feeds the emotion much easier.
Yes, beautiful. I know many who have been utilizing that. And I think there are many of us who will continue to listen, Mr. Keshe, for, you know, your ongoing comments on this. And we're all learning all the time. And many people are, you know, outside of the first world countries are trying to find ways to do this in the simplest way. And we want to be doing it right. So thank you so much for talking about it. And
I tell you something you can do if you understand it, if it can be explained in a different way. When you open these batteries, you have a center graphite in the middle, you create a CO2 or whatever. Use one plate, one battery cover as nano-coated, one as non-nano-coated, and then create a Gans of zinc oxide, which you can use it for feeding. You can feed the physical body of the man through the soul and the emotion of the man, and the man does not need any physical food. This is a secret of those who move to the level of not eating, and those who tried it and it says, sometimes I can eat, I cannot eat. If you use the zinc oxide at the level of the soul, which means take the Gans out, make the Gans of zinc oxide, make another Gans of zinc oxide, and the ratio difference produce the zinc oxide in the middle from the two Ganses. You can use that oxide, this liquid plasma, to feed the emotion and the soul of the man that the physicality does not need no food. Those are people who've been drinking fruit, CO2 cocktails and Ganses, plasma water. They're trying to feed the physicality, to feed the emotion that it does not need to feed the soul. But in a way, if you feed the emotion directly at the level of the soul, then your physicality is fed. You don't need food. You feed the headquarters, the rest are already fed. That's the simplicity of it.
yes.
And this is what a lot of people don't understand. In the third world nations, what I call the development of the technology in the West has led to a lot of batteries to be dumped in the third world nation. And it's actually a food supply, it's an energy supply. Only thing is how to use it. You know, they say where there is a muck, there is money in English language. The muck is what they throw out at us with these batteries. If you understand how to use it, you have a massive energy resources. Take the zinc out, nano coat either side, create a Gans of zinc in the middle. Take the copper or the carbon, which you had it from originally, because it's already nano coated itself, nano coat one layer of it, and then use the Gans which you produced in the zinc between the two plates, put it around the tissue, even a leaf of a tree does, wrap it with a Gans inside it, and put the zinc nano coated on top of it. You got yourself a natural battery that lasts years.
Beautiful. May I ask you also to talk a little bit about the electricity that it used? I know in all different ranges with Gans making. I know the plain nano-coated copper Gans we make originally with no electricity. Then some run a wire in between the metals just to use the natural currents of water or the water. And then
you're having trouble with the transmission there. It's breaking up sometimes. So
let me talk a little. Let me talk a little slower too. So, question about the use of electricity with the Gans process, and knowing that with our original nano-coated copper process, we don't use electricity, And then some have come up with a method of just running a wire in between the metals in the Gans process to flow the natural electricity in the salt water in between the metals. And then the third method would be to add a little tiny trickle charge, and some maybe connecting a battery, some connecting a phone charger. And then what we've dealt with is reducing that, because usually the amount coming through is too much, and we're trying to keep it below 1 amp or 1 volt. But I'm curious what you're...
Is that for producing Gans material?
I'd say when the carbon stick method is used, that seems to really help the process. I mean, I've had people who've had a little regulator thing that could cut it down to about 0.56 or 0.05.
Can I explain something?
Please.
The process, because once you enter the Gans level, the current you put through the matter state is the creation of the flow at the matter level. That's why you put all the energies at that strength into the material. That's why you get a faster result. Now with connecting a wire, you have specified this is the energy I need. You put a filter on it. The wire connection is the filter limit. Is a limitation you dictate. Then, because you dictate, all the energy at that level comes to the system, and that's why it works faster. Where in the other ways, randomly what is available at that level is created and used. So in a way, that's why you see a massive. In a way, when you connect, even we do connect through a power supply, or sorry, to a fan or a LED. We are dictating that this is the range we want to stay. Anything above we take out. But when you put a wire directly between the two, you dictate exactly what you want. And you don't dissipate it. So it gets used in nanocode or release of the atomic structure from one or the other. You live in a village, but you have a lot of noise of cars. It must be a very good village.
I'm muted, so I don't know where that's coming from.
No, so this is the problem, and this is it's not a problem, it's understanding more. And in a way, the speed we have bulldozed through knowledge in 3 years is now like questions you ask is good to be asked, that it opens up, clarifies a lot of things. As I said, we can teach about the soul of the man and elevation of the soul. At the same time, we can teach about the physicality and dimension of the matter in gases and nanocoated. Because we have new people and we have people who are elevated to that level of understanding.
So thank you. And one more question. In a remote area, say, what would be, I mean, I know we're taught to use an LED light to get CO2 GANs versus zinc GANs in basically the same making process. Any additional thoughts on how to get CO2 instead of zinc if, say, you don't have an LED available? What
you mean to produce ganses?
Yeah.
Just connect it to a different piece of metal than the two. If you have a wire copper coming from the copper plate, and you have a copper wire coming from the zinc plate, one is nano coated and the other one, just get a piece of aluminum and connect it to the aluminum, the two wires from the two plates. You need to create a balancing that anything over is used, then you get a constant. When you produce CO2 with a LED, for example, you produce a specific type of GANs. You have dictated the condition. The same as when you connect it to a motor. Now, the GANs, even you still produce CO2, but it's tuned to the level of the motor. When you do it with LED, it's down to the level of the LED power consumption. Anything above is dissipated because below it doesn't move. So so you put a filter. These connections you add. If you connect one to another directly, you don't do anything because you are actually using the plates and matter state for it, and you have no control in such a way of you doing the filtering. Just use a third element that in between the two can dissipate the energy, and you create a specific energy CO2s.
Beautiful. So that a
I
little
tell you
piece of
something you can do. Get yourself a piece of wood, take the skin off, and connect it to that. You produce totally different gas. You produce
wow.
gas of CO2. This is what you have in nature. That's then you
Mm,
produce a gas at the level of the vegetation, which is absorbed, is best for the vegetarians.
beautiful. We've
This is what you
also
can do. You can, but the thing is, once it goes dry, you have to change it.
Okay, interesting. So another thing that was
That's
used,
the fact. You should have done it by now.
that's exciting. It's exciting. So your
if
capacity,
if you if you take the stem out, you clean the. You see, the skin is a nano layer. You don't want. There is no contact. You need the dynamic one. So you need the live connection. Put the stick in the glass of water and connect it into a higher part. You still get the same. You keep it moist. You have to keep the transfer of energy across.
so beautiful. And a little more.
Let me touch on something. Sorry
Okay,
about that. To
go ahead,
understand.
please.
In the battery operation, you use acid, which means the giving of energy. That's what's because a high level of hydrogen available. In a connection with a salt, you create life, energy at the level of life. That's where you produce gases. This is the difference. That's why we use salt. So when you create salt, the energy absorbed from the environment dictates what kind of gas is produced. Where with the alkaline in the alkaline base, so it dictates you want to absorb energy to create life. Where with acidic, you give so much that the life cannot be sustained. That's the difference why we use salt or we use acid condition. And the faster we understand this, the easier it becomes an elevation of understanding of the totality. So when you're dealing in that side, you want to produce gases which is connected to alkaliness. Use exactly where it comes from, a plant, a branch, what do you call it? A dynamic life is the same. So you can use it, the level, if you like, let's say, a gans of, let's say, cauliflower. You get the stem of cauliflower, take the skin off, and the green part of the leaf is yours. So the gans you use is at the strength of the cauliflower. Very simple.
Wow, that is awesome.
I thought you should have understood that by now.
That is amazing. That's very cool.
Yeah, but this is
So
what,
this is
how
a
you
very,
will. Pardon?
I'd love to throw out, when I was teaching in South Africa, some wonderful people brought shungite, which is a carbon-based rock with a hexagonal structure, and we made CO2 GANs with it, zinc GANs, and it really made, in place of the carbon stick, and it made a beautiful GANs. So I'm curious if you have a comment on that. Also, if you can speak a little more to how much electricity is proper to run through in the carbon stick method if we were using a trickle charge into there, either from a battery or
okay.
a reduced phone charger, or not. I mean, that seems to make the GANs work, really.
Yeah, but the thing is, we do the same thing in the factories. We put big plates, we put bigger 50-liter containers, and we connect them. Then we choose a power supply. We put 2, 3 volts, 1 amp, 2 amp, and we see massive production. Because in that level, we are not concerned about anything, because we just need a detachment or attachment of the material to the coils. The rate of the current dictates the rate of the flow and the color of the material you get, because it's different energy has different colors. This is the beauty with a lot of teachings, which a lot of people don't understand. You put a copper plate and a zinc plate, no more current, you get CO2. You put a nano-coated copper with a non-nano-coated copper, you get a very green production zinc copper oxide. You increase the voltage, what you get, it becomes orangish color, because now you're separating most of it in the atomic layer because there's not enough oxygen in the water to be oxidized. When you increase the voltage very high, the separation is so fast that it doesn't even go through the separation in a Gans state. It goes directly into a nanomaterial and you collect nanomaterial from the bottom. The rate of the flow dictates the speed of the separation of the molecular into atomic and then to a gas. That's all it is.
Wonderful. Gans is just such a wonderful material, and I know those of us who make a lot of it love it. It's such a art.
You know, the Gans is the most pleasurable material in the world if you know what to do with it.
It is.
I tell you why. A body of a man, a body of a woman is made of Gans. We haven't extended our knowledge because of the taboos we carry in our head. But what do we touch when we hold our partner? A big plasma of Gans. Why do you take pleasure when you hug
That's
your?
beautiful.
You understand? I bet if I connect you to let's say a leaf of a tree and your partner, you produce a beautiful Gans if you sit in the bathroom, in the pot. We have created limitation to our own understanding, but reality is no different. Why do we feel good when we hold our partner? Why do we feel good when we hold our children? Why do we take pleasure in holding our grandchildren? Because we are more mature, they are less. And in giving, we take what they don't need and we mature them. And that's why we kiss, or why kissing is so common in man. Because it's an act of emotion and transfer of the physicality at the same time. And we have learned to do it the quick way.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I see Arvis, who's the person who really, I think, brought forth the carbon stick method originally. He says use a solar cell, and I know he uses a solar cell usually.
Doesn't matter what you use, it just depends on the speed of separation you put through the material.
Okay.
If I was you or anybody else, do not waste the carbon stick. Use it the way I said. You have a huge energy sources if you understood the measure.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for talking about this. Yes.
Thank you very much.